away from your presence. I will be a homeless wanderer on the earth, and anyone who finds me will kill me. But the Lord answered, No, if anyone kills you, 7 lives will be taken in revenge. So the Lord put a mark on Cain to warn anyone who met him not to kill him. And Cain went away from the Lord's presence and lived in a land called Wandering, which is the east of Eden. The descendants of Cain. Cain and his wife had a son, and named him Enoch. Then Cain built a city and named it after his son. Enoch has a son named Irad, who was father of Mehujael. And Mehujael has a son named Methuselah, who was the father of Lamech. Lamech had 2 wives, Ada and Zillah. Ada gave birth to Jabal, who was the ancestor of those who raised livestock and lived in tents. His brother was Jubal, the ancestor of all musicians who played the harp and flute. Dinah gave birth to Tubal-Cain, who made all kinds of tools out of bronze and iron. The sister of Tubal-Cain was Mama. Laman said to his wife, Ada and Zerah, listen to me. I have killed a young man because he struck me. If 7 lives are taken to pay off killing Cain, 77 will be taken off anyone kills me. Seth and Enoch. Adam and his wife had another son. She said, God has given me a son to replace Abel, whom Cain killed. So she named him Seth. Seth has a son whom he named Enoch. It was then that people began using the Lord's holy name in worship. The descendants of Adam. 5. This is the list of descendants of Adam. When God created human beings, he made them like himself. He created them male and female, blessed them, and named them human beings. When Adam was 130 years old, he had a son who was like him, and he named him Seth. After that, Adam lived another 800 years. He had other children, and died at the age of 930. When Seth was 105, he had a son Enoch, and then lived another 807 years. He had other children, and died at the age of 912. When Enoch was 90, he had a son, Kenan, and then lived another 815 years. He had other children, and died at the age of 905. When Kenan was 70, he had a son, Mahalalel, and then lived another 840 years. He had other children, and died at the age of 910. When Mahalalel was 65, he had a son, Jared, and then lived another 830 years. He had other children, and died at the age of 895. When Jared was 162, he had a son, Enoch, and then lived another 800 years. He had other children, and died at the age of 962. When Enoch was 65, he had a son, Methuselah. After that, Enoch lived in fellowship with God for 300 years, and had other children. He lived to be 365 years old. He spent his life in fellowship with God, and then he disappeared because God took him away. When Methuselah was 187, he had a son Lamech, and then lived another 782 years. He had other children and died at the age of 969. When Lamech was 182, he had a son and said, "From the very ground on which the Lord put a cause, this child will bring us relief from all other hard work." So he named his Noah. Lamech lived another 595 years. He had other children and died at the age of 777. After Noah was 500 years old, he had three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Human weakness. 6. When people had spread all over the world and daughters were being born, some of the heavenly beings showed that these young women were beautiful. So they took the ones they liked. Then the Lord says, "I will not allow people to live forever. They are mortal. From now on, they will live no longer than 120 years." In those days and even later, there were giants on the earth who were descendants of human women and heavenly beings. They were the greatest heroes and famous men of long ago. When the Lord said how wicked everyone on earth was and how evil their thoughts were all the time, he was sorry that he had ever made them and put them on the earth. He was so filled with regret that he said, "I will wipe out those people I have created, and also the animals and the birds, because I am sorry that I made any of them." But the Lord was pleased with Noah. Noah. This is the story of Noah. He had three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Noah had no faults and was the only good man of his time. He lived in fellowship with God, but everyone else was evil in God's sight, and violence had spread everywhere. God looked at the world and saw that it was evil, for the people were all living evil lives. God said to Noah, "I have decided to put an end to all the people. I will destroy them completely, because the world is full of their violent deed. Build a boat for yourself out of a good timber. Make rooms in it and cover it with tar inside and out. Make it 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high. Make a roof for the boat and leave a space of 18 inches between the roof and the sides. Build it with the 3 decks and put a door inside. I am going to send a flood on the earth to destroy every living being. Everything on earth will die, but I will make a covenant with you. Go into the boat with your wife, your sons, and their wives. Take into the boat with you a male and female of every kind of animal and of every kind of bird in order to keep them alive. Take along all kinds of food for you and for them." Noah did everything that God commanded. The flood. 7. The Lord said to Noah, "Go into the boat with your whole family. I have found that you are the only one in all the world who does what is right. Take with you 7 pairs of each kind of ritually clean animal, but only 1 pair of each kind of unclean animal. Take also 7 pairs of each kind of bird. Do this so that every kind of animal and bird will be kept alive to reproduce again on earth. 7 days from now I am going to send rain that will fall for 40 days and nights, in order to destroy all the living beings that I have made. And Noah did everything that the Lord commanded. Noah was 600 years old when the flood came on the earth. He and his wife and his son and their wives went into the boat to escape the flood. A male and female of every kind of animal and bird, whether ritually clean or unclean, went into the boat with Noah, as God has commanded. 7 days later the flood came. When Noah was 600 years old, one of the 17th day of second month, all of the outlet of the vast body of water beneath the earth burst open. All the floodgates of sky were opened, and rain fell on the earth from 40 days and nights. On the same day, Noah and his wife went into the boat with their 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their wives. When they every kind of animal, domestic and wild, large and small, and every kind of bird, a male and female of each kind of living being, went into the boat with Noah. And God has commanded. Then the Lord shut the door behind Noah. The flood continued for 40 days, and the water became deep enough for the boat to float. The water became deeper, and the boat drifted on the surface. It became so deep that it covered the highest mountains. It went on rising until it was about 25 feet above the tops of the mountains. Every living being on earth died, every bird, any animal, and every person. Everything on earth that breathed died. The Lord destroyed all living beings on the earth, human beings, animals, and birds. The only one left was Noah and those who were with him in the boat. The water did not start going down for 150 days. The end of the flood. 8. God has not forgotten Noah and all the animals who him in the boat. He caused the wind to blow and the it started to go down. The outlets of the water beneath of the earth and the floodgates of the sky were closed. The rain stopped, and the water gradually went down for 150 days. On the 70th day of the 7th month of the boat came in to rest on a mountain in the Ardentic range. The water kept going down, and on the first day of the 10th month the top of the mountains appeared. After 40 days Noah opened a window and sent out a raven. It did not come back, but kept flying around until the water was completely gone. Meanwhile, Noah sent out a dove to see the water has gone down. But since the water still covered all the land, the dove did not find a place to fly. It flew back to the boat, and Noah reached out and took it in. He waited another 70 days and sent out the dove again. It returned to him in evening with a flesh leaf in its beak. So Noah knew that the water had gone down. Then he waited another 70 days and set out the dove once more. This time it did not come back. When Noah was 601 years old, on the first day of the 1st month, the water was gone. Noah removed the covering of the boat, looked around, and saw that the ground was getting dry. But the 27th day of the 2nd month, the earth was completely dry. God said to Noah, "Go out of the boat with your wife, your sons, and their wives. Take all the birds and animals out with you, so that they may reproduce and spread over all the earth." So Noah went out of the boat with his wife and his sons and their wives. All the animals and birds went out of the boat in groups of their own kind. Noah offers a sacrifice. Noah built an altar to the Lord. He took one of each kind of ritually clean animal and bird, and burned them while at the sacrifice of the altar. The order of sacrifice pleased the Lord, and he said to himself, Never again I will put the earth under a curse because of what people do. I know that from the time they are young their thoughts are evil. Never again will I destroy all living things as I have done this time. And long as that work exists, there will be a time for planting and time for harvest. There will always be cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night. God's covenant with Noah. 9. God blessed Noah and his sons and said, Have many children so that your descendants will live all over the earth. All in the animals, birds, and fish will live in fear of you. They are all placed under your power. Now you can eat them as well as green plants. I give them all to you for food. The one thing you must not eat is meat with blood still in it. I forbid that because of the life is in the blood. If anyone takes human life, he will be punished. I will punish with death an animal that takes a human life. Human beings were made like God. So whatever murders one of them will be killed by someone else. You must have many children so that your descendants will live all over the earth. God said to Noah and his sons, I am now making my covenant with you and with your descendants, and with all living beings, all birds and all animals, everything that came out of the boat with you. With those words I make my covenant with you. I promise that never again will all living beings by destroying by a flood, never again will a flood destroy the earth. As a sign of this everlasting covenant which I am making with you and with all living beings, I am putting my bow in the clouds. It will be a sign of my covenant with the world. Whatever I cover the sky with clouds and rainbows appears, I will remember my promise to you and to the animals that flood will never again destroy all living beings. When the rainbow appears in the clouds, I will see it and remember that everlasting covenant between me and all living beings on earth. That is the sign of the promise which I am making to all living beings. Noah and his sons. The sons of Noah who went out of the boat were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham was the father of Canaan. These three sons of Noah was the ancestor of all people on earth. Noah, who was a farmer, was the first man in plant vineyard. After he drank some of the wine, he became drunk, took off his clothes, and lay naked in his tent. When Ham, the father of Canaan, saw that his father was naked, he went out and told his two brothers. Then Shem and Japheth took a robe and held it behind them on their shoulders. They walked backward into the tent and covered their father, keeping their face turned away so as not to see him naked. When Noah sobered up and learned what his youngest son had done to him, he said, A curse on Canaan. He will be slave to his brothers. Give praise to the Lord God of Shem. Canaan will be the slave of Shem. May God cause Japheth to increase. May his descendants live with the people of Shem. Canaan will be the slave of Japheth. After the flood, Noah lived 350 years and died at the age of 950. The descendants of Noah's sons. 10. These are the descendants of Noah's sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. These three had sons after the flood. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshesh, and Teras were the ancestors of the people who bear their names. The descendants of Gomer were the people of Ashakites, Raphidites, and Togarmah. The descendants of Yavin was the people of Elisha, Spain, Cyprus, and Rhodos. They were ancestors of the people who live along the coast and The islands. These are the descendants of Yapete living in their different tribes and countries, each group speaking in its own language. The sons of Ham crushed Egypt, Libya, and Canaan, were the ancestors of the people who bear their names. The descendants of Cush was the people of Seba, Havilah, Tabata, Rama, and Sabtaka. The descendants of Rama was the people of Sheba and Dinah. Cush has a son named Nimrod who became the world's first great conqueror. By the Lord's help, he was a great hunter, and that is why people say, "May the Lord make you as great hunter as Nimrod." At first, his kingdom included Babylon and Iraq and Akkad, the three of them in Babylonia. From that land he went to Assyria and built the cities of Nineveh, Rehoboth, and Kala, and Rezin, which is between Nineveh and the great city of Kala. The descendants of Egypt was the people of Lydia, Anam, Lebaha, Naphtali, Phathroth, Kashila, and Create, from whom the Philistines are descendants. Canaan's son Sidon, the oldest in Har, was the ancestor of the peoples who bear their names. Canaan was also the ancestor of Jebusites, the Amorites, and the Girgashites, the Havites, and Akkites, and the Shintites, and the Arvadites, and Zemarites, and the Hamalites. The difference between the tribe of the Canaanites spread out until the Canaanites border reached from Sidon southward to Gerar near Gaza, and eastward of Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, and Zeboim near Lasha. These are the descendants of Ham living in their different tribes and countries, each group speaking in its own language. Shem, the older brother of Japhet, was the ancestor of all Hebrews. Shem's sons Elam, Ashur, Aparshad, Lud, and Armon were the ancestors of the peoples who bear their names. The descendants of the Aram were the people of Uz, Hul, Gether, and Meshach. Arpachshad was the father of Shelah, who was the father of Eber. Eber has two sons. One was named Peleg, because during his time the people of the world were divided, and the other was named Yoktan. The descendants of Yoktan were the people of Almodad, Shepelsha, Hazarmavech, Yaha, Hadomoram, Uzel, Dilgla, Operal, Admiral, Sherba, Ophel, Havilah, and Jebab. All of them were descendants from Yoktan. The land in which they lived extended from Mesha to Shephar in the east of hill country. They are of the descendants of Shem, living in their different tribes and countries, each group speaking in its own language. All the peoples are descendants of Noah, nation by nation, according to their different lines of descendants. After the flood, all nations of the earth was descended from the sons of Noah. The Tower of Babylon. 11. At the first, the people of the whole world have only one language and use their same words. As they wandered about the east, they came to a plant in Babylonia and settled there. They said to one another, "Come on, let's make bricks and bake them hard." So they have bricks to build with a tar to hold them together. Then said, "Now let's build a city with a tower that reaches the sky, so that we can make a name for ourselves and not be scattered all over the earth." Then the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which they had built. And he said, "Now then, these are all one people, and they speak one language. This is just the beginning of what they are going to do. Soon they will be able to do anything they want. Let us go down and mix up their language so that they will not understand each other." So the Lord scattered them all over the earth, and they stopped building the city. The city was called Babylon, because there were Lord mixed up the language of the whole people, and he scattered them all over the earth. The descendants of Shem. These are the descendants of Shem. 2 years after the flood, when Shem was 100 years old, he had a son, Arpachshad. After that, he lived another 500 years and had other children. When Arpachshad was 35 years old, he had a son, Shelah. After that, he lived another 403 years and had other children. When Shelah was 30 years old, he had a son, Eber. After that, he lived another 403 years and had other children. When Eber was 334 years old, he had a son, Peleg. After that, he lived another 430 years and had another children. When Peleg was 30 years old, he had son, Reu. After that, he lived another 209 years and had other children. When Reu was 32 years old, he had a son, Sarah. After that, he lived another 207 years and had another children. When Shelah was 30 years old, he had son, Nahor. After that, he lived another 200 years and had other children. When Nahor was 29 years old, he had son Terah. After that, he lived another 190 years and had other children. After Terah was 70 years old, he became the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran, the descendants of Terah. These are the descendants of Terah, who was the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Haran was the father of Lot, and Haran died in his hometown of Ur in Babylonia, where his father was still living. And Abram married Sarai, and Nahor married Milah, the daughter of Haran, who was also the father of Isaac. Sarah was not able to have children. Terah looked his son Abram, his grandson Lot, who was the son of Haran, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, Abram's wife, and with them he left the city of Ur in Babylonia to go to the land of Canaan. They went as far as Haran and settled there. Terah died there at the age of 205. God called to Abram. 12. The Lord said to Abram, leave your country with your relatives and your father's home and go to a land that I am going to show you. I will give you many descendants, and they will become a great nation. I will bless you and make your name famous so that you will be a blessing. I will bless these who bless you, but I will curse that will curse you. And through you I will bless all the nations. When Abram was 75 years old, he started out from Haran, as the Lord had told him to do, and Lot went to him. Abram took his wife Sarah, his nephew Lot, and all of the wealth and all of the slaves. They are acquired in Haran, and they started out of the land of Canaan. When they arrived in Canaan, Abram traveled through the land until he came to the sacred tree of Morah, then had placed at Shannon. At the time of Canaanites were still living in the land. The Lord appeared to Abram and said to him, this is the country that I am going to give you descendants. Then Abram built an altar there to the Lord who had appeared to him. After that, he moved on south to hill country east of the city of Bethel and set up his camp between Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. There also he built an altar and worshipped the Lord. They have moved on place, going through the city part of Canaan.